The US State Department says it's expecting new chemical attacks by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and is promising a quick response. Washington's failed to substantiate claims that earlier attacks against Syrian citizens were actually conducted by the government. This comes after Donald Trump recently claimed that he'd been pressured by the US arms industry to keep thousands of American soldiers in Syria. Maupin reports.
So, who sets U.S. foreign policy? Well, when it comes to the projection of military force, the Constitution and common sense says that's the president. Here's how George W. Bush put it.
But I'm the decider, and I decide what is best.
But recent statements from Donald Trump throw that into question. Here is what he said.
You do have a military-industrial complex. They do like war. You know, in Syria with the caliphate. So I wipe out 100% of the caliphate. I say I want to bring our troops back home. The place went crazy. They want to keep. You have people here in Washington. They never want to leave. Someday people will explain it.
Well, this is an example.
You do have a group, and they call it the military-industrial complex.
So according to Trump, he wanted to bring troops back from Syria, but he was compelled to leave several hundred of them there. Why? Well, according to him, the USA has quite a powerful military-industrial complex. And if our president is fighting against it, it seems that he's hiding this fight rather well. Recently, Donald Trump appointed Patrick Shanahan as his new Secretary of Defense. Shanahan spent 30 years at Boeing, which is one of the largest defense contractors in the United States and one of the world's biggest arms manufacturers. And like many other companies contracted by the Pentagon, Boeing is having a great year.
Some folks in this industry have actually pointed to what they've called a Trump effect. Have you seen that in terms of our allies and their spending?
Not only have I seen that, we think it's the best time that we've ever seen in a long time for the defense industry.
But it's not just the Trump presidency that has been a boon to the military-industrial complex. Many different political leaders in the United States have campaigned on a platform of peace and then expanded wars once they've taken office.
Nations making progress toward freedom will find America is their friend. We'll promote our values. We'll promote the peace.
We've lost thousands of American lives, spent nearly $1 trillion, alienated allies, neglected emerging threats, all in the cause of fighting a war for well over 5 years in a country that had absolutely nothing to do with the 9/11 attacks.
I will never send our finest into battle unless necessary, and I mean absolutely necessary, and will only do so if we have a plan for victory with a capital V.
As if we've learned nothing from history, the 34th U.S. President, Dwight D. Eisenhower, warned the public about unwarranted influences when he left office over 60 years ago.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted.
The American people don't want war, so presidents always run as the peace candidate, and then, inevitably they start wars. Even Richard Nixon, during the Vietnam War, was only elected because he was saying he had a secret plan for ending the Vietnam War. As it turned out, his secret plan was to escalate the war, add more troops, and enlarge the war. It's all about, these large monopolistic companies wanting to get a huge bunch of money. They like threats of war. They like active war. They are, they're the warmongers, and they have an enormous amount of influence that's commensurate with the amount of money that they put into campaigns.